Good evening, ma'am. Selen, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Shall we start, ma'am?
Us, whenever you're ready. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Bharati,
All right.
you can start now. Bharati, your voice is not audible, Bharati.
Now it's audible or not, ma'am?
Yes, you are audible now. You can start.
Okay, ma'am. Evenings are the beautiful sweet spot between the harsh light of the day and the dead darkness of the night. A very pleasant evening to all in this technical forum. It's my pleasure to be a moderator for the conference. On behalf of Trinity College for Women, PG and Research Department of English, I would like to extend my warm welcome to all of you for a 3-day international conference on language, literature, and culture, ICLLC 2K21. Here is a hearty welcome with full of desires and hopes. Now, I would like to invite Ms. S. Poornima ma'am, Head and Assistant Professor, Department of English, Trinity College for Women, Namakkal, to deliver her welcome address. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Bharati. Greetings to everyone. It gives me an immense pleasure to welcome you all here for this intellectual gathering. Respected Chairman Sir and Secretary Sir of Trinity College, distinguished Chief Guest of this session, Mrs. Selen Gadia Ma'am from South America, and for another session, Chief Guest, Stephen Sir from Argentina, beloved Principal Sir, and my colleagues and other dignitaries, as well as great intellectuals who are all gathered here. I am so delighted to welcome you all for this great gathering, who are all as welcome as the flowers in May. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Success usually comes to those who are too busy to be looking for it. Good evening to all dignified dignitaries who are involved in this technical session. It is indeed a beautiful evening, all soaked in the delighted frame of mind. This evening, I have the pleasure of introducing the keynote speaker, the star of this event, Mrs. Selene Gardia ma'am, who is working as a second language teacher in Uruguay, South America. She has shaded numerous podiums in different institutions where she has delivered lectures on Cert TESOL in Trinity College, London, Diploma in TESOL in Chichester College, Delta 1 IH, TKT modules 1, 2, 3, YL, CL, IL, KAL in Cambridge University. PELE, Teacher of Spanish as a Second Language in IH Uruguay. She delivered lectures in Fulbright Scholarship Teacher Exchange Program 2020 in Northern Illinois University. Her specialized areas in language and literature are gamification, fun learning, pronunciation and phonetics, and etc. She is a versatile personality who has experienced more than 2 decades. She has initiated her career in Professora Externa, Instituto Dickens Uruguay, Educadora, Docente de Ingles, head teacher, the British Institute, Docente de Ingles Effectiva in CEIP, and the coordinator de Ingles cum Lingua Extranjera. The women of supremacy acquired the skills of academics, educational leadership, public speaking, research, desarrollo curricular, elementary education, and technologia educativa. She possessed her huge academia and accomplishments. She has received over 38 international certification in various national and international conferences and organized several conferences under her leadership. She is the first woman who organized the conference in bilingual education, Chile. During this pandemic situation, she has taught online classes in the Institute of Cultural Anglo Uruguay. She is a versatile multilingualist, linguist, and a dignitarious personality we have today for this session. No doubt, this session will be a resourceful and unique to all. Thank you so much for providing me this golden opportunity. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, thank you, everybody. Well, firstly, I would like just to thank the organizers of this prestigious event for having me here. I am very honored to be part of this conference, and I would like to thank everybody to be here joining us today. And I really hope you, by the end of this lesson, this presentation has something useful to take to your classrooms. So thank you so much for your kind presentation. Well, so today we're going to talk about gamification, as you see. And firstly, I would like just to introduce something about the context from which I'm going to speak about gamification in the classroom. Well, you have heard some things about me, but I will also like you to know some things about where I am from. These kind ladies mentioned that I am from Uruguay in South America, which is a very, very teeny tiny country between Argentina and Brazil. And that's relevant because I was surprised when I received the invitation to take part of this event, and I cannot be happier and prouder to be part of this community of teachers around the world. And it's a really honor for me to be part. So thank you, deeply thank you about this. In this country, in Uruguay, we are about 3 million inhabitants. And during the last 20 years, there has been a strong implementation of second language acquisition compulsory program in primary and secondary schools. So for the last 20 years, it represented for teachers a big challenge to try to teach English and Portuguese to children between 3 and 11-year-olds. And that's why I started to search the web and try to find resources to make my classes in games, to make them attractive and to make them challenging enough for them to get into the language. So that is the why I am here delivering this presentation about gamification, because I needed to. So I really hope my findings are useful for you too. I am here to share. All right, so this is our menu for today. I'm going to work with you in 4 stages. Firstly, we're going to analyze to play or not to play. The second, I'm going to try to provide you with my favorite tools, with my best resources in order to make them yours, and you can use them in your classrooms too. Then I'm going to show you some tricks I found about how can we make our learning cooperative enough. And finally, we're going to talk about some relevant remarks about gamification. So let's do this. Well, let's analyze. First thing we need to talk about is that it is easily confusing the fact that playing and game is not the same, okay? So we're going to start by the element of distinguishing these two very clear different concepts. We're going to talk about play when we are talking about something which is free, okay? When you deliver a free time in the lesson or at the beginning of the lesson before you start, and your students just play something without no purpose, without no boundaries, and just for the sake of having fun, that's a play. And that's not what we're going to do in our classrooms, because in our classroom, we're going to implement games, which is a different thing. So what is a game? Well, a game needs to have, per se, 4 main characteristics. The first one is the game needs to pursue an objective. So we are going to play a game in the classroom in order to gain something. So I'm going to propose a game for my students because I want them to practice their oral skill. I want them to, I don't know, to cooperate better. I want to make a more comfortable environment in my class. Whatever my purpose is, it always need to have a clear purpose in order to become a game. Second very important fact is that that game needs to be clearly regulated beforehand. So every participant needs to know what is the purpose of the game, what are the rules, what happens if I follow the rules, and what happens if I don't, all right? And from my experience, I would also like to add that kids or players in general need to know what are they going to receive if they win, okay? Because the core of gamification lies on the fact of rewarding. As you can see, the third main characteristic is the feedback. So if I win, I'm going to receive something, and I would like to analyze a little deeper this element, because it is not just because they're going to receive a big prize, but possibly they're going to receive points, they're going to receive some kind of rewarding, such as some minutes break, an activity they enjoy in the classroom, free time reading, no homework that day, whatever you want to prize them with. But we need to provide them with some kind of feedback. And finally, which is possibly the most challenging one of those, is that the participation needs to be voluntarily. So they really want to play on their own. It is not something that we can force them to do. So if we have a clear objective, we set the rules, we establish what's going to be the feedback, and they want to play, so there we're going to implement a game, right? So that is the most relevant difference between a game and a play. But now we're going to talk about what is gamification, because clearly games around us, because marketing is has laid their persuasive devices for us to buy their products using gamification. For example, when we use credit cards and we receive some points because we have some kind of, I don't know, marketing offer, that is laying on gamification too. But we are going to focus gamification on the area of education. So we need to go deeper then. We need to provide the students with a game-like experience. So it is not just they are going to play a game just for the sake of doing it. We are going to pursue an objective, as we mentioned before, mainly a language objective. And me as a teacher also need to establish what is going to be my aim. I want them to enhance their speaking abilities, because I need them to practice how to buy in the supermarket. So I'm going to produce a game in that context for them to practice that. As we mentioned before, we need to establish the rules and also the mechanics. The mechanics and the dynamics are two very important factors too, because in the mechanics is going to be how they are going to deliver that game. If they're going to need a dice, if they're going to need to work in groups, if that game is for them to play on their own with a computer, what kind of material would I need to use? The dynamics refers to the kind of interaction I am going to propose in that game. And finally, the statics. And possibly the static may be one of the factors that we least pay attention on. Nevertheless, it is one of the most relevant, because they are possibly going to be the motivators for our students to take part. If we bring to the class no matter the age, something which is different and we never use in the classroom, something which is colorful, something that is new for them, they are going to catch their attention and they are going to have the intrinsic motivation of taking part of our game. And why do we game? Do we play games? Sorry. Because we need to do something in order to learn. Well, I here have selected this quotation, which is very well known by everybody here. And I love it because I strongly believe that we need to do something with what we need to learn in order to make it ours. So providing students with the opportunity to manipulate, to take part, to use the language in a meaningful way is going to be the more secure path for them to learn what we want to teach. Well, and here it's one of the most determinant things because motivation needs to be for teachers the most challenging thing. Well, as everybody knows, nowadays we are facing a very strong pandemics and the environment of the classroom has changed. And we teachers are trying to do anything we can in order to cut our students' attention, to keep them motivated, and to make them to be part of our lessons. So we need to try to cope with the balance among these three things. We need to keep the language in use or whatever we want to teach. We want to keep them with the engagement of taking part, with the enjoyment of taking part of the game. And also we need to pay much attention on the kind of interaction we propose. Because when we propose a teamwork, when we propose a game, which is going to be played in teams, in groups, or even in pairs, they are going to be developing social interaction, which is going to be meaningful for them. Nowadays, they are having very relevant investigation in the field of social emotional learning and brain-friendly lessons, and that kind of things are determinant in our students' life because they're going to learn how to negotiate, they're going to learn how to listen to others, how to respect when the other is the winner and I cannot do it this time, how to face the frustration of not being the winning in this game. So all that kind of things are going to be secondary things that we also need to pay attention to when we're going to present the game in the class. Well, so we always need to get, whenever we plan a game in the class, motivation is a key, okay? No matter if I want to teach, well, I'm going to use this game because I want to teach science and I want them to have the vocabulary in use. I want to use this game because I want to teach English and I would like them to practice whatever, but also there are a lot of things behind the game that need to be planned by the teacher beforehand, right? Well, fantastic. So games are good. I hope I have already persuaded you that games are good. Everybody likes to play games. And even teachers like to play games too. And well, now we're going to think in which moments can I implement my games in my class. Whenever you want it, whenever you feel like, whenever you need it, okay? You can use a short game as a warm-up. You can use a game to present new vocabulary, to present new concepts, to practice something, to check if your students are following the track of something that you presented, to evaluate, and mainly for fun. And that is the key here. Of course, as teachers want to do everything in the class for students to learn, but students also need to have fun. And when you are having fun, your emotional filter is going to go down, as Stephen Krashen fantastically exposed, and we feel more comfortable in the classroom and we start enjoying our staying there, sharing with my colleagues, sharing with my teacher. So I feel more comfortable, I feel safe, and then I can participate better and I can be opener to receive the knowledge that it is in the environment. So Of course, games are relevant in every moment of the class. Of course, games are fantastic resources for teachers, but also they are for fun, okay? Well, so we have analyzed already. Let me go, okay. So we have analyzed already what is the difference between a play and a game. We also have analyzed what are the main characteristics that gamification in the classroom may have, should have. When can I use it? What for? So I really hope by this time, I am so sorry I have no interaction with the listeners here, but it would be fantastic if we had had the chance to know what's your opinion about games. If you use games in the class, how do you feel? What have been your experiences about that? My experience, I am fan of games in the class because my experience has been very nice. My students enjoy it. The environment in the class is better and we feel comfortable and things go better. So I strongly recommend colleagues to implement them in their classrooms too. So here, I'm going to kindly and humbly share with you my toolbox. And I really hope you find at least something that can be useful for you. I always recommend my colleagues to have sort of basic toolbox that every teacher should have. Firstly, are board games. Oh, before going beyond, this presentation is going to be shared with you by the end. Okay, by now I'm going to share the link for you to use it. So there is no need you to just screenshot or whatever. You are free to do it, but you're going to receive the presentation right now. I was saying that there are certain of basic things that every teacher should have ready just in case. Of course, we need to plan everything we do in class, but sometimes things just come up and my humbling advice would be that teachers should have sort of a small set of things that are always useful. First one are board games, but empty ones. And in Sparkle Box, which I am strongly fan of, it's a web page where you can download totally for free in PDF among other formats everything you want. Just you go to the place and you search, for example, animals, and you're going to be able to download flashcards, board games, bingo games, everything just done for you to print and use it, which is great because I think that worldwide teachers are very busy people and we really don't have the time enough to plan every single time. So the thing I have done for the last years is I have printed these board games, empty board games, and I have just to make them in plastic. So every time I'm going to use them, I'm going to fill them in with specific purposes. So there is the web page I'm sharing. You can have many kind of, for example, these board games. You can have dominoes, bingos, snakes and ladders. I don't know, you name it. Many resources that are totally for free. You just search it on and you download. And these kind of things which are empty are very versatile because you just can use it every time you need it in every context you need it. And they're going to be worth to do it just once. And then three other things you're going to need are going to be dice. And also there I'm sharing you a web page because they are virtual, totally for free again. Just students click there and they roll the dice. Physical ones I strongly recommend you to have because it can be very helpful for you to have. Some kind of timer, digital one or whatever, and I also include in there a web page which has tons of options My kids love it because they have bombs with sounds. They have people running races, and they always have a winner, and they bet who is going to be the winner. So these kind of timers, because we also need to consider that when we place the rules. We're going to play this game for that time, okay? Until we get a winner, or we're going to play today this game for 20 minutes, and you set the timer, and they know when it's going to start, and they know when it's going to finish. And then the picker wheel, which is again totally for free, you just can edit very easily. I promise, extremely easily. You just get the names of the students or the options you want to play there. I often use these to pick them, for example, when I want them to answer questions. So I just get the questions, and in another one I get the names, so they pin it, and the person who gets in the wheel is the person who is going to answer the question. So you can be as creative as you are in order to pick the options that are in the wheel, right? So these are sort of the bases I strongly recommend teachers to have whenever they want to play. And now we're going to analyze, I'm going to share with you a set of virtual resources on gamification. Kahoot. I am not going to go deeper on Kahoot because I guess everybody knows it. But you are just supposed to go to create.kahoot.it, and you're going just to create your account as a teacher, and you can create a set of questions. It has a huge variety of options. It is not only the one which has a question and the students need to pick the right answer, but also you can pick options of true or false, of organizing, it's fantastic. I mainly use it to evaluate, to formative assessment, because I can monitor how far they are following me in the track. So I prepare some kind of game, this kind of game with some questions about we have been already talked in the class, and I can monitor without they even notice. I can monitor how far they are following me, what are the things that possibly I need to go again on. So I strongly recommend this web page. Well, then Whirlpool. This place is fantastic again. I am very fan of these ones. So, well, this one is one web in which you just can go there and you can either search, and there are many things, a menu, a variety of things. Everything I'm going to mention in this presentation is for free. So you can go there and you can find already done some games, and also you can create your own. So if you create your own game, then there is a variety, a menu of possibilities in which the same bank of words that you're going to be using in one format is going to be replicated in different formats. My students' favorite is a quiz show, that it is very colorful, and it has a lot of music and different things. They give you bonus tracks, and it is extremely motivating. So I suppose it could be useful for you too. EducaPlay. And from here on, possibly we're going to go a bit more on serious games. Serious games are those ones that have some kind of serious purpose behind. So possibly in EducaPlay, you're going to find serious resources such as games for students to learn to deal with past and perfect, games for students to deal with adjectives, whatever, from the point of view of lexis and grammar specifically, all right? So again, you go there, you can search for specific areas you are interested in, and also, you can create your own resources. I recommend these resources mainly for secondary school students about from 12-year-old on, because they are not as colorful as the ones I presented. But now I'm going to show you something that can be nice for primaries. Well, these games are the ones which which we have categorized at the beginning for fun. Because even when they are pursuing the ESL Game Plus, which are pursuing the fact of being games, they are mainly in the level of words. They are not on the level of sentences as the others. So I personally believe that could be more related to for fun, when you have some extra minutes in the class, or when you want to have just to warm up your classes, you may use something like this. And the same here, which I recommend, because you can not only use the ones which are presented, but also you can edit. And they are mainly board games, virtual board games, where they just scroll the dice and go from one mission to the other. Well, games to learn English. It is more serious gaming again. And as you can see, I just screenshot one for representation. The first option are the games which are going to be aiming to deal with simple present, for example. So as you can see, the serious gaming, I know my students need to practice simple present, sorry, simple present, so I'm going to ask them to do this. How can we relate these fantastic websites in the classroom? Well, in the new scenario of teaching virtually, you can just link them with the specific game you want them to play, or either you can use it and integrate it for you to deal in Zoom. We're going to see it how in a minute. Well, so fantastic. I hope I am not bombarding you with too much information, but we are already in the third step of this. Let's recap a bit. In the first step, we talk about the difference between games and plays and what was the gamification. In the second step, I tried to offer my toolbox with virtual gaming. And now we're going to see how can we integrate those games in the classroom. Well, I know what has been your experience, even when I would love to hear your experiences about this pandemic period teaching. But here in my country, in Uruguay, we have no other choice rather than using or overusing Zoom. So the students had a platform, a virtual platform that I used to link them, for example, with, among other things, with games. And also we had live sessions in Zoom. And that was extremely overwhelming, and as I hope everybody happens, but also has been challenging because I was sort of forced to learn resources and things about it. So from the options we have in Zoom, we also have one which is polling. And it has been a sort of a recent thing I have tried out in my lessons. My students like it. Extremely simple to do. You just click on polling, you edit the kind of question you want to offer and the options. And whenever you are ready, you deliver it, and all the people participating in your presentation are going to be able to interact and answer the questions. Whenever you are ready, you stop it, and immediately after, you're going to have sort of a graph with the results of the poll. It is a way to keep them engaged. It is not a game per se, because we have already mentioned that it doesn't follow the characteristics, but it is a way to keep them awake and to keep them engaged. Even when it is not a whole game presented, it's a way of interaction that makes the viewers attracted. Another thing that we can also use are cameras. And you can say, well, now I like to present a question, and everybody who think that my question is answered with the option 1, please leave your cameras on. And all the ones who believe that the answer is 2, please get the camera off. And that kind of interaction of cameras make also students feel more relaxed. They like playing with the cameras and with the fact of being hide with the cameras off. So it could be a very good interaction for you to play. Another thing would be managing the use of the chat. You can change the settings in the chat for them to be able to communicate among them, communicate only with the teacher, and that kind of things can also be used as part of the mechanics in a game, all right? So you can just secretly speak with one of them in order to the others discover something, or you just can produce a question or whatever, a challenge, and they can provide you with their answers without the others to read it. And also, there is another option, which is the remote control. I have played with not a big number of students in Zoom, many virtual games, the ones I have shown you before, simultaneously. So in the menu of options, you have one option, which is remote control. So if you click there, you're going to have all the participants options. You pick one, and from that moment until you decide it, that person can use your screen. So I'm going to give the control to this student in order to pick one of the options. I stop it, and then I'm going to give the control to other students to get the options, and so on and so forth. So it is a way you can deliver and administrate the game even virtually. Neopod. Neopod is per se a web page, but also it is an extension that can be downloaded in Google in order to make your presentations interactive. And it is also very useful in order to gamificate your classroom. You produce your presentation, your PowerPoint presentation in Google, and then you can select from Neopod different options for your students, either to complete polls, to answer questions. There is a virtual whiteboard for everybody to write and comment. And one of my favorite options there, I strongly recommend you to take around, is it is linked with Google Maps. So students can go to a place and go with the cameras around the place. You could integrate it into the classroom. I was sharing with one of my colleagues the other day that I had to deliver a lesson about vocabulary about crime with a B1 level. So I was trying to think in a game or something we could do in order to use crime vocabulary, which is not very comfortable topic to arise with them. And then I had the idea to work on a crime scene, and there were a lot of suspicious people, could be the murderer, and I provide them with some clues they need to read and analyze in order to discover who was the murderer. And I provide them with a Neopod presentation, and I ask each of the possible murderers were based on different parts of the world. So one was in China, the other one was in Paris, the other one was in New York. So they need to go there with their computers and see around and look for some clues they need to use. So that kind of resources could be interesting for your students, mainly adolescents, for you to integrate in your classroom. And then I'm going to show you possibly the simplest one, which is make your students participate in your presentation. All right, and it is exactly what is going to happen now. I just screenshot an example in order to make it clearer. I prepare in my presentations these kind of things that students can just take and move, right? And they need to play the game of flash or trash. For example, if the word exists, they're going to place it under flash. And if the word doesn't exist, they're going to place it in trash. So I share with them the link of my presentation here. It's in Spanish, I'm sorry, but it should be shared. So you click there and you copy the link, you share it in the chat of Zoom, and your students are going to get into your presentation and they're going to be able to edit it. So you said, well, team number 1 is going to work in the slide number 25 and grade number 2 in the slide number 26. So simultaneously, they are working in your presentation. You can see what they are doing. They are comparing, and you are delivering a game in your own presentation simultaneously. They love to do it because they feel that you are sharing your power in the classroom with them, and they love to do it. And also it is fantastic as a teacher because you can see all the time what are they doing, what are they moving. If they are stuck, you can go there and say, well, do you have any problem with this? So it is a very nice way to monitor from distance. Okay, so we are in the last part. I think I am great. I'm sorry. I hope there is somebody listening to me yet because I have over speaking today. So sorry. All right. So finally, make it work. Let's clear up. What is important in gamification? Instructions. Provide them with clear instructions. Well, we're going to play this game because teacher needs to do this, because you need to learn that, because I would like you to practice this, whatever. But be clear, okay, with what is possible to happen in the game, what is not okay to happen in the game. You need to get to clear set purpose, and also to clear up the rules. What are the things they can do, and are going to be valid in the game, and what things are not going to be valid in the game, and what are going to be the consequences. Be sure to provide a good environment. If I offer game, I said, well, kids, today we're going to play a game. You just need to try the dice and go. The first one is getting in the game is going to win. Nobody is going to want to play that game. So I just need to be the one to motivate them. You know what? Today we're going to have something different. We're going to play a game. Are you ready for a game? So in order, one of the main characteristics of the games are that they really need to do it. I cannot force them to do it. I just need to try to use all the resources I have at hand in order to persuade them to be part of that game. Motivation, motivation, motivation. Keep your students motivated. Nobody can learn in a place they don't want to be like. So if you want to be in the classroom, if you want to share the time with your teachers and your colleagues and your peers, then you're going to be comfortable in order to be relaxed and receive new stuff. If you just don't want to be there because you're boring, because you're bored, because you are not feel safe enough to make mistakes, for example, or if you are, the rules are not clear and always there is the same person who's going to be unfair, that kind of things are going to be not motivating for them. So be sure that you are paying attention on the factors too. And something which is international is teachers are very busy people. So try to have basic tool of material and reuse it, recycle. Think, well, I need to make them to learn about going to the zoo this next month, and I don't know what to do. Oh, yes, I had that kind of set of cards I used for the other year to do whatever. Use it again, reuse it, recycle new stuff, and always keep them with the energy to play. Don't overplay one game. Try to set a variety and don't overuse them. We play games from time to time. So whenever they are with the whole energy on the top, well, can we play it again? Can we do it again? No, we cannot do it again. You played today. That was cool. Now we're going to move on. The idea is that they want to keep that energy to keep on playing. So if we overuse that resource, it's going to lose their effect, and we don't want that. So in order to close, because I just don't want to overwhelm you, and I I cannot be more glad to have this opportunity for you to hear me today. I would like to finish with this remark, I'm sorry, with this quote, which is, I'm sorry, I just need to have some water. It has been a long talk, I'm sorry. That play is our brain's favorite way of learning. Definitely, definitely. I strongly believe that our brain learns better or even learns when the environment is good enough. So we're going to try to do our best as teachers to provide them with the best scenario possible and with the best resources possible. Well, audience, here you have the QR for you to access to my presentation. I am pasting right now for you the link as I promised, so you can get there into my presentation. You can download everything which is there, just everything is ready for you to click and use. There is my email and my Instagram, and considering the circumstances that I couldn't interact with you, I really would like to hear your views and mainly your experiences. There is a huge, fantastic teacher here in Uruguay, which I really respect, which is Gabriel Diaz Maggioli, and he always says that the guru is the teacher next door. And I cannot agree more. Share with your colleagues, ask for ideas. Teachers are very creative people, so we should always try to trust on ourselves and say, well, I need to do something. I would like to teach this. Do you have any idea? Have you used something that was fruitful for you and you can share? I am open for sharing. And I hope this toolbox has been good enough for you. And I really hope this presentation has been fruitful. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your lively as well as lovely session. Really amazing one. Tell me, I will forget. Show me, I will remember. And involve me, I will understand. You involved us all to your wonderful presentation, ma'am. The presentation you gave was one that I will never ever forget. I just remind a quote here: the best teacher teaches from the heart, not from the book. Certainly, this session was the best instance for this quote. And your words: play is our brain's favorite way of learning. We should follow, ma'am, definitely. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot for sharing your ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful presentation. The PowerPoint presentation that you have prepared is awesome. The passionate lecture of yours, ma'am, it provides insightful learning, deals with the fun learning to our students. You have listed some technical tools of online fun learning, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, let's start our second session, ma'am.
Please wait, Bharti. We shall start within 10 minutes.
Okay, ma'am.
Bharati? Bharati? Bharati, can you hear me? Stephen, sir? Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Okay, let's move to this next session. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our honorable chief guest of this session, Professor Stephen Trecho, sir, from Argentina. He is an English translator. He has teaching service of over 20 years. We really salute your teaching service and guidance, sir. Sir has been training students at his workplace for international exams such as FCE and Trinity. He is a theatre actor also. Really is such an amazing personality we have today for this session. Sir is going to engage a session with the title Narrative and Drama as a way to improve English learning as a second language. I hope this will be an insightful one to all. Thank you, sir. Now the forum is open to you, sir.
Cross. They just say I'm always crossed. Why wouldn't I? Just for you to know a bit about me, I was born in India at the age of 9. I lost my parents. Too tired of cholera. Yeah, cholera. I cannot say I miss them much, honestly. My mother would always spend her time in parties with her fancy friends. My father worked all the time, and I was left to the care of the house servants, strangers that did not share a bit of their blood with mine. I couldn't feel more lonely, you know. When my parents died, tragically, I have to say, I moved with the Crawfords. None of the silly brats in the house wanted to play with me. Selfish, they called me. One day I was told I was moving to England, to my uncle's house, a huge mansion for an awful henchman, a hunchback man. Can you imagine? Mr. Archibald Craven at Misselthwaite Manor in Yorkshire, my new home. Such a plain child and disagreeable, said Mrs. Crawford when talking about me. And yet her mother so pretty and delightful. I'm not a deaf, you know. As if it was not enough, I was received by an old bad-tempered lady, Mrs. Medlock. With a hard, sharp voice, Mrs. Medlock described the place that would be my prison from then on. It's a very strange place on the edge of the moors. There are nearly 100 rooms, most of them shut up and locked. There's a big park around the house with garden and big trees, but nothing else. Your uncle is definitely not taking any care of you. As she told these words, I felt completely miserable and gloomy. I made this adaptation from the first chapter of the novel written by Francis Hodgson Burnett, The Secret Garden. I'm starting my presentation talking about storytelling. But first, let me introduce myself. Today, I'm dealing with storytelling and drama. My name is Esteban Trejo and I come from Argentina. And I want to deal with this, I would say, incredibly vast topic that I will try to sum up during this hour. I heard the previous speaker, she was saying that she didn't want to overwhelm us with her presentation, which was a pleasure, in fact, to attend. And let me tell you that I will definitely overwhelm you. I hope you enjoyed anyway. I will focus, especially as I was telling you, in storytelling and drama and how to use them to learn English as a second language. I'm also an actor, a theater actor here in my city. So I hope you have fun and enjoy the presentation. Any comments you have, you can, I don't know, you can make the comments after this talking, or meanwhile, I will be checking the chat from time to time if I can, because I have a tendency, to focus on what I'm just saying. Okay, let's start then. Can you hear me well? I would like somebody to tell me, please, if I am audible, if it sounds okay. Hello?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't want to start without thanking you all for having me here. This is a complete pleasure to be part of this incredible sessions. I have been attending to all of them, and I really appreciate the opportunity to learn from each one of you and the speakers that have been presenting their topics so wonderfully. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on. I want to start my presentation with this interesting phrase. The human species thinks in metaphors and learns through stories. This phrase was written by Mary Catherine Bateson. She was a thinker, philosopher, American thinker and philosopher, anthropologist, a very intelligent woman. And I would strongly recommend you to follow her. She's not with us anymore, but you can see her videos on YouTube, and she deals with very interesting topics. Let's start then with storytelling. I decided to talk about storytelling because it's one of the most ancient ways of expressing people's ideas. Human beings have always had the need to communicate their ideas. From the very moment that two persons come across, we can say that since that precise moment, a story can be told. Something will happen at that fantastic moment of encounter. If we move to ancient times, we will see that people used to gather around the fire. This even happened at caveman times when they discovered fire as this fantastic phenomena that called their attention. I'm pretty sure, well, I can't say I'm pretty sure, but I think that they might have communicated their stories, not in words, because that was not part of evolution at that time, but maybe in gruntings and noises. They would definitely find a way to express themselves and to communicate to each other. And why not telling stories? This tradition of gathering around the fire has been part of humankind for years. And even in the indigenous tribes around the world, you will see that all the tribes, the people will gather together around the fire to listen to the cacique, they thrive. The wise man, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that, but people would gather around the fire to share their ideas, their views, and their stories. And these meetings, the chiefs used to receive the messages that they want to transmit to the people, the knowledge, to communicate something to them. And this tradition of gathering around the fire remains even up to today, in which we can see young people are gathering around it and sharing their stories. So it seems like the fire, this fantastic phenomenon, gathers people together for them to communicate their ideas, what they feel, what they expect from life, and obviously telling stories. My point with this is that telling stories is a very important tool to use when we are learning a language. Everybody tells a story. We always have a story to tell, not only to transmit the stories that we generally read in the classic books, but also from our own personal lives. And this is what I want to focus my point when I'm talking about students. Students have their own stories that they want to tell us. And it's our job as teachers to encourage them to tell us their stories. Of course, we're using the language. In this case, the language will work as a tool. There are different ways of telling stories. I'm just going to mention some of them. I know that I'm not saying anything new that you as teachers might not have experience in your own classrooms with your own students, but these are the ones that have worked in my classroom. And I really enjoy using them with my students because I can really see that they actually work. Students love telling stories. Students, they're really engaged, but that depends 100% on us as a teachers. We have to be the motivators. We have to encourage them to tell their stories. It doesn't matter if at first they do not use the language as properly as we would like. The point is that at least they will be using the language, the foreign language in the class, and understand that the use of language does not depend only on the academic. Its languages are there to be used in real life. We use languages because they are alive. I would like to start with anecdotes. Grandmothers, as you know, well, in my case at least, grandmothers love telling anecdotes. And I will share one of my grandmother's anecdotes. When we were kids, my brothers and I used to listen to my grandmother telling us one particular anecdote that we will always remember. It was the day that my father, at the age of 14, decided to move from my city. I live in Salta. Salta is a small city in the northwest of Argentina. That's my country. At the age of 14, my dad decided to move to Buenos Aires. He wanted to enlist in the army. Before moving on, I would really like you to see the person I'm talking about, just for you to have a clear idea who I'm talking about. Let me introduce you, my father. This is my dad. At that day, when you can see him now, he's having some mate. Mate is a kind of drink, a particular type of drink that here in Argentina, we drink a lot. We love having mate. It's part of our culture, in fact. And this is my dad at the date when he was confined in hospital because he'd had a brain stroke. Fortunately, he did well. But as we know my dad perfectly well, We know that at that precise moment, maybe the doctor was telling him how to take care of himself, what he has to do after, having survived this stroke, that he was clearly deciding not to listen to anything doctors said to him. That is my dad, just for you to have an idea of the person I'm talking about. Going back to the anecdote, just for you to know, he has no idea I'm using his photograph here. So if he finds out, I'm pretty sure that he would laugh or maybe he wouldn't care. Going back to the story, when my grandmother used to tell us the story when my dad decided to move to Buenos Aires, that is the capital city of our country, and it's in the south. He was only 14 years old, and she says that she remembers the day when they went to see my dad off at the train station, which was for them a very nice moment, a magical one, a very sad one, because it was a hard for them to see their child moving to another country, to another city, sorry, which in fact is pretty big. I don't know if you've ever been to Buenos Aires, but let me tell you that it's pretty big and dangerous, in fact. Well, my grandmother used to tell us that they were, the 9 siblings, because they were 9. My grandmother and my grandfather seeing my dad off. And she would always end up this anecdote by saying that they were just waving their hands, saying goodbye to my dad. That wasn't the train. And we always had this romantic image of my grandmother and my aunts and uncles just seeing my dad off, something like this. I have to say that I even imagined this in black and white, and they were seeing these people off. We have all this romantic idea of my dad moving to Buenos Aires, such a brave boy, at the age of 14. But throughout years, my dad really told us how everything really happened. And the fact was that they were very poor. When they were kids, they were very poor. But the point is that they were not poor because my grandfather did not have any money, but because my grandfather decided to spend all his money on other women. Yeah, my grandfather was a womanizer. And the fact is that at home, there were so many children, so many kids that have nothing to eat, that my dad couldn't stand it anymore. And he decided to leave. And the army was not something romantic, that just like trying to serve his country, but on the contrary, was a way to find a safe plate of food. That's the point. And when my dad moved, in fact, he was not inside the train, but in fact, it was something, more like this. As you can notice, I have to paint that a hand, but if you have seen many American films, you can imagine what is this man doing with his hand. Well, this is something that might have actually happened, This is a real thing. My dad was not into the train, he was outside. In fact, he traveled on the roof of the train. And that is a real anecdote. What is my point? What I'm trying to show you is that every story can be told in different ways. An anecdote can be told in different ways. And this depends on the person's impression of the same story. So there will never be the same story to be told. Even those stories that have been written, like The Secret Garden, for example, will be felt, experienced, and understood in a different way by each one of us. It depends on many factors. It depends on our emotional states, our knowledge of the world, our background knowledge, our age. Many factors influence and us when understanding the story. The same happens when students want to tell their stories. What we hear will be just their own creation. And when they use a foreign language to express their ideas, they might find it really difficult to express themselves. But it's our job to help them to find the tools, the way to express themselves. Anecdotes can be told in a romantic way, nostalgic one, or even a humorous one, like this one that, although it's true, it's pretty funny. Well, I hope it's funny for you. It was funny for me. Kind of disappointing because we have just, this romantic idea of my dad moving to Buenos Aires, but in fact, he was a stowaway on a train. All right, let's move on. Another way of telling stories is through images. This is something I want to tell you that everything I'm sharing with you, except my dad's anecdote, because I didn't share that anecdote with my students. I share a lot more, but not that one particularly. When my dad, sorry, I have just realized I did not available for you. Sorry. Can you see me now? Sorry.
No, sir.
Can you see me now?
No, sir. No.
Okay, I don't know what's going on.
Yes, sir. Yes. Now it's visible.
Now it's okay. Oh, all right. So you have just been listening to my voice. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened with my camera, but I was just so into my own story that I forgot to turn my camera on. I'm so sorry. All right. So I was telling you that everything I will be talking about today is just the things that I used in my class. Something else that I used in my class is to tell the story through images. And I realized that it worked perfectly with some of my students. Let's be honest, not all students are interested in our methods. The only ones who are really into our methods is us teachers. We do the best to motivate, to encourage our students to improve in their language skills. And I encourage you and us to continue doing that. But we have to be honest, not everybody will be interested in our wonderful methods, but we have to try. This is part of a story that it's called The Treasure of Monte Cristo. It was written by Alexandre Dumas. And we work with this in my class. And as it is kind of a heavy story for students, some vocabulary seems to be kind of complicated because it's a historic story. It's about a really band in France. So it gives a lot of facts that students find difficult to remember. And I say, okay, what can I do to make this kids to be more interested when retelling this story and not parroting or just repeating by heart? Because I don't, something that I really, I think that we should avoid in our classes when working, with readers is to avoid memorizing, that's good for nothing. It's students, of course, have a tendency to do that. But I think that if we as teachers keep motivating that behavior, they will never stop doing that. So I tried with this, so I chose in this case, it's just a couple of chapters of the book, and I decided to express them through images. So it's this in this particular part of the story, Dantes is taken as a prisoner by the police, and so the students will have to arrange the story using connectors. Well, first in this picture, Dantes, the main character, is taken prisoner. He's carried in a police carriage, and then they take him to a boat. So, and so on and so forth. The point is that this will be a visual aid for students to express themselves. Some students found it really hard to work with until they got used to this. For some other students, it came out to be really easy, and it facilitates the presentation. I strongly recommend to use this because kids today are very visual. They don't want to retain information. They can respond to the information that we are asking from them better if we provide them with some image. We live in a very visual world, and our students were born in a visual world. So they need this impact to express themselves. Well, working with image is another way that I found easier in my class to work. Let's move on. Okay, let me see. Yeah, something that I found really effective is also gossip. You know, gossiping is a good thing. I mean, I'm not saying to talk bad about other people, but just students are in the age, in which they love sharing other people's lives. They are so into other people's lives that they even care more about others' life than their own. So a good way of engaging them in the class might be by using a gossips, okay? And I will give you an example of how this can work. Let me read something for you. This is a situation where in the classroom we have two students, and these two students are talking, okay? They're talking about somebody. And we just, in this image, I want you to build up in your brain. You have two students that are talking together, and then you will have another student who might be the back in the front. It depends on where you want to place it. But this person would be listening to the situation. So we will have student A, and we might call him, I don't know, Paquito, and we have student B, Marcos. All right, and Paquito say to Marcos, "Have you heard Johnny's girlfriend has cheated on and now she's serious problems?" And Marcus says, "Shame." Here's the situation. While they were talking, something happened, something that the other person couldn't hear clearly. And so he wants to talk to his friends the following thing. "Did you know, guys? Have you heard that Johnny's girlfriend is cheating on him? Yeah, and she's not ashamed." Here's the situation. We have a gossiping. People that were talking about one particular situation, gossiping. The other one that was trying to listen to what they're saying, something happened. Something happened that prevented them from listening what is going on. And there was a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding can be really useful when we want to have fun in the class. You can use this situation, and at the same time you can just create some misunderstanding. Of course, you give the students the opportunity to do that, and they really enjoy that because the students are really creative. The thing is that by doing this, they think they are playing, they're playing. But the truth is that in fact, they are learning, okay? I just have some message popping up in my screen. And I just want to make sure that everything's okay. If you can see my presentation and you can hear me properly, can you please let me know if that's correct? Anybody?
The same screen, sir.
Everything is okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Now, moving on. There are different ways we can tell a story. We can retell a story from many viewpoints. We can pretend to be the main character. In the first in the chapter, I was reading about the Secret Garden, from the Secret Garden. The character is a female character called Mary Lennox. In my case, I represented that character as a male one, and I pretended to be her. All right. Well, I don't think that Mary Lennox will, look kind very well with my voice, unless she has some problem. Well, we can tell the story from the view of the main character. We can tell the story from a secondary character viewpoint. Another way is to change the beginning or the end of the story. And we can also change horror stories into comedies and vice versa. The fact is, this is just a few ideas that I am pretty sure that you might have worked with them many times in your class, but they work really well. And everything depends on your creativity, because the students are there. Students are ready to create something in the class. It depends on us as teachers to motivate them. Next. Now I want to move to the drama. How can we use drama to help students learn a language? I am an actor. I am a theater actor in my city. I'm extremely famous. No, I'm just kidding. I am not famous. And in fact, I think that only my friends know me. Independent theater. If any of you is an actor, you will understand me perfectly. But the fact is that I love theater, and it's something that I really enjoy talking about. And whenever I have the opportunity, I really enjoy working with theater in the class. I will start first with a very general, an overview of the theater. Let's move on. Let's go to the Greek theater. Well, the Greek theater is known as the origin of the tragedy and the comedy. Okay, let's talk about different factors, different views, specific points that we have to take into account when talking about the Greek theater. The Greek theater has in its origin a very social function. The function of the theater during the Greeks' time was a moralizing one. They wanted to educate the people. The aristocrat at that time they perform a play, they put on a play on stage for everybody to attend to. And that is another moment of gathering. I want to put emphasis on the fact that people enjoy gathering and sharing. And that's why I mentioned that when I began my presentation talking about people gathering around a fire, because we are social beings. And as social beings, we need to be in contact with others. During the Greek times, the theater was a very important tool to educate people. The people in power at that time will transmit their ideas, their values. They will influence on people's way of thinking. By educating them through this tragedy, they were showing to them. In these tragedies, the people will attend to the spectacle where they will see the hero was a very noble person, a person who was considered not to have any deeds or any wrongs. It was almost a perfect person to imitate. And so this hero will eventually come across an event in his life, his or her life, by which he will be affected. And the fact is that this event that took place was impossible to be avoided. That was known as the fatum, or the destiny or fate. The hero will be a victim of his own fate. There was nothing he could do to prevent that from happening. The idea of this was to convince the people that whatever had to happen to them will, and they could never go against the laws of the gods. So the hero will undergo this fatum, this fate, this tragic situation. And at a certain point of the tragedy, the hero will experience what it was called anagnosis. Anagnosis, it's like a self-awareness or the acknowledgement of the hero of the situation that he is experiencing. At that point, the hero understands that he has been breaking the God's laws. He accepts his guilt, his responsibility, and that leads to the people that attend this event to what is called the catharsis. The catharsis will be just the expiation when we clean ourselves by attending this tragedy. And it was very interesting to see that at that time, the actors performing tragedy will always wear masks. I just want to mention that because I will use that later on in my presentation. What is my point with this? Theater, it's a moment of reunion. And in that point, I want to quote a very important writer, thinker, and playwright, Argentinian playwright. And he is a teacher in the University of Buenos Aires, and he's in charge today and of the subject philosophy of theater. And he's called Jorge Dubarty. From my perspective, one of the greatest writer of drama theory today. And he wrote, I translated this. I hope I'm not failing his ideas. I tried to do my best. He says, the theater is an event of coexistence. In Spanish, the word that he used is convivio. Coexistence can also be understood as a gathering, reunion. The theater is an event of coexistence in which, by division of work, the participants of such coexistence produce and attend, witness, poetic physical and verbal physical events. The theater consists of a poetic physical and verbal physical event produced and attended, witnessed in coexistence. This is absolutely interesting and obviously more complex than what I'm going to tell you. I will try to sum up this idea just to put through my point. And what he says is the following. There is no theater if we don't have a specific elements. Those specific elements include the actors, of course, the director, the people that work to put up this play on stage, and of course, the audience, public. Without this coexistence, there's no theater. That's why today it's so difficult to talk about theater for this situation of the pandemic. It's very complicated, and it's been complicated for actors and directors to work during this time because we don't have this connection with the audience, and we need that. The point is that when this happened, this gathering happened, there is like, just how to say it, just like a silent agreement between the audience and what is happening on stage. The audience attend a play and they understand the convention that what they are going to see is not real, but they decide to believe that it is. My point is that theater has always given the opportunity for gathering, bringing people together. And that is what we have to do, particularly now that we're undergoing this pandemic situation. That makes it so hard for us as teachers to work. But don't forget that we're working with children. And if we're having problems by, dealing with this situation, coping with it, imagine these young children that in generally they enjoy sharing their lives with others. In fact, everything in their lives includes being in social contact with others. Here in Argentina, specifically in the school that I'm working in, we have the chance to attend classes regularly. But I know that in most places that's not the case, and children have virtual classes all the time. For you, for those who have the opportunity, just like me, to have their students in the class, include drama in your lessons. I know that we cannot interact physically, but there are different ways in which we can interact without being in direct contact with others. The point is that students need this contact, and drama brings them the possibility to do that. I mentioned some of the benefits of doing theater in the school, in the class. When we work with theater, we develop students' creativity. And for those students who think they are not creative at all, they will be surprised to find out how creative they can be. And for those students who feel frustrated that their pronunciation is not good, their intonation is not good, they can never speak in another language because they don't understand how it works. This practice of working in theater will give them the confidence they need to express themselves in the foreign language. Cooperation and interaction is fundamental. You need to work with the other. Your performance depends on the other. Even if it's a one character play, you will always depend on somebody else. When you're an actor, you will depend on the director and the people that are working there to make everything work. There's always somebody that you will depend on. So you need to interact with others. You need to cooperate. This educates students that cooperation and interaction is important. They need to learn that by sharing their ideas, they have to respect each other. They have to listen to each other. Obviously, doing theater produces knowledge. That's logical. And in our case, it will produce knowledge. It will develop skills in the use of the language. That's why we use language as a tool. It seems that language is not when they are performing a play, when they are rehearsing, and they are so into it, and it's our job to be there as moderators, just telling them what to do and to speak in English all the time, or whatever you teach, whatever language you teach. In my case, English, and to make them understand that they will have to find a way to express themselves if they want to work. Even though some of them will have more advanced vocabulary than others, eventually they will find a way. Communication works at different levels. And it's also inclusive because everybody will be included. And that is because we will have actors, but you can also have somebody who will be in charge of the costumes, because maybe they just they don't feel so, confident enough to be on stage. And we as teachers, we need to understand that nobody has to be forced to do it. Some students are more extroverted than others. We have to respect, obviously, those that don't want to perform because they feel exposed. So, if you don't want to perform, you will have to do something else. So, you can help your partner. You can assist them. Okay? Good. And for language learning, when we are working with grammar into the class, we will improve pronunciation. And Shakespeare, I think it's not such a good idea to use, of course, if you use texts that are adapted to the class, it's okay. But in the original language, it will be absolutely difficult to students to reproduce. There is a wide variety of plays that you can use today, and modern plays that student can be interested in and feel motivated by, and you can help them with their pronunciation. We as teachers have the obligation to improve our own use of the language. We need to improve our pronunciation in order to help students to improve their own. The same happens with the intonation. They think they're playing, and that's the point. They think they're playing. And the fact is that they are using the language in a creative way. When you work with a play, they will have to learn new, specific, and also varied vocabulary. Specific, because you will have to know different words that concern the fact of working in theater. Also, grammar structure, depending on the level, of course, they will be able to use more complex grammar structures, and they would use them without even realizing them. At first, they will try to memorize what they're saying. They'll say, okay, if I want to represent this, I will memorize it. But it's a job as teachers to moderate and to help them understand and comprehend their characters. And also it helps locution. Let's move to something I'm really interested in working with today. I hope that you're not too overwhelmed with my presentation. I told you that it will be overwhelming, and I hope that you're interested in it, that it's not boring. If it's boring, okay, we just have 10 more minutes. It's not, the surgery won't last forever, don't worry. Something I want to talk about today is also the mask. First, I will read these phrases. Woe to him who doesn't know how to wear his mask, be he king or pope. I present to you in a form suitable to the relationship I wish to achieve with you. In the past, actors used to wear masks to hide themselves and present the characters to the audience. Within time, this has changed, and today we don't wear masks on stage, but we don't wear the physical mask, but we wear as actors an imaginary mask. We're not the person, I'm not the person who's talking now anymore when I am performing and represent the character. I am the character. And when students understand this, when they see the possibility of not being themselves, we can find a lot of wonderful things. Wonderful things would happen, you know. Those students that were very shy, suddenly they will feel free and they will feel confident enough to express themselves, because it's not them anymore, it's the mask. And when they understand that they can use this mask to express themselves, they feel free. And so I'm not ashamed anymore. I feel better now. If I make mistakes, well, it's not a problem. First, I am rehearsing. And second, it's not me, it's the character. So this idea, this suspension of the self for a moment allows students to feel more confident. It is said that actors, in fact, are very shy people. And I have to agree. Those who know me will say that I am a very talkative person, and that's true. I am a very talkative person, but believe me, I am very shy indeed. But when I'm on stage and I'm performing a character, that's not me anymore. It's the character. And you feel free because working in theater gives the opportunity not to be one person, but thousands. And that is the magic of theater. Then when we talk about how to build a character, we need to give this information to our students in order to make them possible to create the character, to build it up. When we talk about the construction of a character, we must always talk about the objective. What is the purpose of your character? We want your character to be well defined. So, what is the purpose of your character? What do you think this character wants? Once you define that, you must complete this character. You are creating a life. It's not you anymore, it's the mask. You must build your mask. What is the history of your character? Where is he or she from? What had happened to his or her life? What do you think this character was doing before performing that particular action on stage? And that makes your character believable. And that gives life to your character. Everything happens in our mind. In fact, we are just a projection of what happens in our mind. We as human beings, we are our history. We are what we learn and what we do with that we learned. In all plays, characters have helpers and opponents. These helpers and opponents might be real or imaginary. What do you think it's your helper? Maybe you're working with other characters and physically you can see them, but maybe it's only you and your inner problems or your inner illusions, And so those would be your helpers or opponents. When you build your character, you can make it real. You can make it more believable for everybody. And so if a person attends to your play, they will believe what you're doing there. Well, and just to finish with my presentation, I think I'm doing great with time. I hope you're not boring or not enough. I would like to talk about the effect of theater on people. This is just some headlines of a play that was performed by Orson Welles, and it was a radio drama, and it's the world of the world. I will try now. I will stop sharing my screen for a minute because I want to share a video with you. Let me see. Well, this was the last part of my presentation. I know these things would happen, all these mistakes. Never mind. I want to stop sharing this for a minute because I want to share something else with you. Just a few minutes. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. And I also want to share sound with you. I want you to pay. Please first tell me if you can listen to this well.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific. This end of the thing is beginning to flake off. The top is...
Can you hear well?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Thank you very much. This is just one particular part of the world that was transmitted on radio in 1938 in the United States and created a huge commotion amongst people. It was a very special moment of history of that time. They were involved in the economical crisis, the crash of the economy in the United States, the World War. People were unemployed. There was a lot of poverty, poor people out in the streets. Everything contributed to this phenomenon to happen. And also, Orson Welles was a very smart man, took advantage of that in order to reproduce his plays. It's precisely at that moment. I just want you to listen to this a little bit, and then I will finish my presentation.
It's beginning to rotate like a screw, and the thing must be hollow.
He's moving! Keep back there! Keep back there! Keep those men back! Keep back there! Keep those idiots back!
Ladies,
The top blew! Look out there! Stand back!
ladies and gentlemen, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever witnessed. Wait a minute. Someone's crawling someone or something. I can see turning out of that black hole two luminous discs. The eyes, it might be a face, might be almost but heavens, something wriggling out of the shadow like a gray snake. Now it's another one and another one and another one. They look like tentacles to me. Oh, yeah, I can see the thing's body. Now it's large as a bear. It glistens like wet leather, but that face, ladies and gentlemen, it's indescribable. I can hardly force myself to keep looking at it. It's so awful. The eyes are black and they gleam like a serpent. The mouth is kind of V-shaped with saliva dripping from its rimless lips. It seemed to quiver and pulsate, and the monster or whatever it is can hardly move. It seems weighed down by possibly gravity or something. The thing's rising up now, and the crowd falls back. They've seen plenty. The most extraordinary experience, ladies and gentlemen. I can't find words. Well, I'll pull this microphone with me as I talk. I'll have to stop the description until I can take a new position. Hold on, will you please? I'll be right back in a minute.
Here comes
We are bringing you an eyewitness account of what's happening.
All right, that's all I needed to share with you about this, just to give you an example of what I'm referring about. I wanted to show you the effect that theater can have on people's life. When a play that was transmitted on the radio, was broadcasted on the radio at a particular moment of history and convinced such a large mass of people that something was going on and moved all these emotions and their personal experiences, we can definitely agree that theater moves lives. And as teachers, I think that is our job, to move our students from our specific job, from our specific task, in our case, to teach, in my case, particularly to teach a language. But how can we inspire our students to learn that language in a natural way? I found storytelling and drama one of my most useful resources. I know that there are a lot more, and it depends on our own creativity. Don't forget, we can do great things if we just want to do them. And as a friend of mine always say, aim high. Thank you very much for your, I'm just reading the comments here on the box. Thank you very much for what you're saying, Cynthia, and everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be with you today. And it's a pleasure for me to have been part of this wonderful event. You have been so kind throughout this time. You have just answered all my questions. I hope I haven't overwhelmed you with my information. I hope you enjoy it and in a way you find it useful. Thank you very much, and that's all. If you have any questions, just you may ask.
Thank you, sir. I am so excited to express my gratitude for your magnificent session. The human species thinks in metaphors and learns through stories. Yeah, we all agree with you, sir. And as we are all professors of English literature, we never forget Shakespeare's words. All the words are stage, and all the men and women merely players. Yes, of course, we are not an exception. Your notions of storytelling techniques are highly prestigious, sir. What a great job you did during your presentation. An amazing as well as astonishing presentation from the introduction to end. And
Thank
then
you
what
very
to
much.
say? Really, you are a Shakespeare of you are a Shakespeare of Argentina, sir, because you kept virtually every member of the audience hanging on your each and every word. That was absolutely awe-inspiring. I wholeheartedly appreciate all your efforts. No doubt, sir. Indeed, you were the greatest actor of attracting a lot of audiences through your actions and words. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable presence.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the excellent, clear, and effective presentation, sir. This great session with the wonderful PowerPoint presentation is very awesome, and we can't forget your words. It's extremely helpful as always while teaching narrative short story and drama. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to invite Ms. S. Poornima ma'am, convener and head Department of English, to propose vote of thanks. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Bharati. My humble greetings to everyone again. Thanks for the opportunity given. I am so exalted to propose my vote of thanks here. First and foremost, I thank our chairman sir and secretary sir for giving me this wonderful opportunity to organize such insightful sessions. Thank you, sirs. I wholeheartedly thank our first session chief guest, Mrs. Selengadia ma'am from South America, for her excellent session on ESL games. Thank you, ma'am. I enthusiastically thank our second session chief guest, Professor Stephen Trichu sir from Argentina, for his amazing session on narrative and drama. Thank you, sir. I thank our principal sir, academic director sir, administrative officer, and my colleagues for their generous support always. Thank you all, sirs and missions. I thank Ms. Bharati to introduce the chief guest as well as host the session well. Thank you, Bharati. Last but not the least, I thank all the participants who are staying here for your outstanding passions of listening as well as learning. Once again, I thank everyone for your cherished support. Thank you all. We shall wind up now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.